body, and there are many parts to the body. And without this leg, this leg, I cannot really I can function, but I need this leg, because if I lose this leg, it affects how my whole body functions. And I'm like, is there a way we can look at that, look at our world like that, even if we're not Christians, That's a helpful analogy.
Yeah. I found a few verses that I really liked. Bible teacher. Revelations 21, verse 24, 26. The nations will walk into, this is talking about the New Jerusalem. The nations will walk into its light, and the kings of the earth will bring their splendor into it. On no day will its gates ever be shut, for there will be no night there. The glory and honor of the nations will be brought into it. The first time I ever read that, I was like, because in my old church in the UK, we had lots of international student communities. So this was something that was always on our minds. A very multicultural church. And when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, every nation, every culture, everything glorious about every nation, every culture is going to be brought into the kingdom of God. That God made all these different people and different ways of life, and everything that he made is good, as we know in Genesis. Yeah. So we need to always remember that we're carrying these things into eternity, not just here and now, if that makes sense. Everything that is good about every nation. And then the other one I found was in Ephesians. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It was in Ephesians 3:10. Paul is writing about how the mystery of the gospel is that it's for Jews and Gentiles, for people who are Jews and basically the whole world. And then he says that God did this because he wanted to show his wisdom in its variety to the heavenly realms. And I was thinking about that too, and I was like, God really is proud of the diversity that he's made. This is something he's happy about. It's look what I did. Show it off to. I did this. Show everybody I did this. And we need to be remembering that when we're in church and community, God is proud of this. This isn't something that we have to hide or just be no, I don't want to talk about it, because no, let's just ignore that. God is happy about how diverse his church is, and he wants to show that off. So
yeah, that is honestly so good. And I think about them so our responsibility as Christians should be that we look at things the way God does. I know we can't fully have the mind of Christ, because God's ways are very, very wide and different from ours. But he has given us his word and his spirit for us to actually know what he thinks and know what he believes and know what he stands for. So in terms of what you are just showing us, which was good, excellence, by the way, I'm just oh, come on, Jesus. Okay. Yeah, in terms of what he's put in his word and how he's proud of it, of how he's made all these different ethnicities. I'm not going to say race, because race is a construct.
Exactly.
Different ethnicities, we should be proud of it and show it off. Yes. Carry on, sorry.
No, I was going to say that too. I'm probably jumping to your next question, because you were I'm going to read it for you. What do you think that will look in regards to race if we embody that? And I wrote that, I was I think I would use the word culture, not race, because race is basically about what skin color. And I think if I was thinking about it, I was many Christians know that the church is diverse. We all know this. We're we're a multicultural church. I feel it's much more difficult for us to realize that comes with behaving differently, if that makes sense. So if we all look different, but we all act the same, I don't really think that's diversity. I don't. And I'm thinking about that, and I think actually culture is what we should use. And in a way for us to embody that is actually celebrating different cultures and getting to know the different cultures, not just being oh yeah, we look different, but look, we're all doing the same thing. Look how unified we are. But actually being no, how do you do this where you're from? How do I do this? Oh, that's amazing. Let me help you with that, or help me with this. I feel that shows more unity than us sweeping things under the rug and then just going about it.
Let's park there for it. It's unity. And you basically just said diversity in unity is also unity. Basically, that's what you just
in diversity. Yeah.
Unity in diversity. Yeah, you get me, you get the picture. But then I was just thinking about this, because when I went on my whole rant, when I saw the Christian Facebook group, and I was Jesus, God is not racist because he made me. And then I kept on ranting, and then I was writing about how in heaven there are going to be so many, in the New Jerusalem, oh my goodness, there are going to be so many different
even the ethnic identities that we don't even know. You know, we're in this part of the world, we're in a small bubble, and we can't even deal with all the different, like the variety of different identities that are beside us. So in terms of like an eternal scale, when you see everybody present in one place, like how would we react? I know we'll be changed, so we might react differently from now.
We might start practicing, right?
Yes, exactly. But you might as well start practicing now. And I'm like, this is like what you said, God is so proud of this. Like, this is an aspect of himself that he's actually proud of, and it's almost like it's a gift that he has given us to be able to experience here on earth, and experience however imperfectly we do it, but to experience it. And I guess the church, coming from that mindset, should look at the different ethnic identities that are in their church and see. I think we need to think more specifically about how we can glorify God with the people that are present in our churches, because I don't think we're doing that specifically enough. We're saying, oh, multicultural, like it's just there. But I think we need to really hone in, like, and really view this, like, like. Sorry, yeah, honestly. I have 9 minutes, so I'm going to try and look through the questions and see. Oh yeah. So what do you think the response is for Christians that, I guess you kind of talked about it, for the Christians that justified the killers of Ahmaud Arbery? What do you think what do you think the response should be to them?
I was thinking about this. I was like, honestly, I don't know. Because do you know anybody? If you know someone physically like that, I feel like the best thing to do would actually be to talk to them, because I like the conversation. And I think what we're doing now, we're all like on social media, be like, no, this isn't right. I guess that helps. But I don't know, to them, what would you say to them? Read your Bible. I don't know. That's it. I don't know what else you say to them. Yeah. But then going off of that into your other question, which I'm going to just keep going off on, how should we respond as Black believers? I have 2 points that some people will see as contradictory, but I don't think really are. That first of all, if something that has happened or that is said or whatever upsets you, don't be afraid to show that it upsets you. Because I feel like, I know personally I'm the kind of person that's like, oh, it's fine, I'll let it slide, like whatever. It's not a big deal. They didn't mean it, so I'll just keep going. I feel like in the interest of the body of Christ, that's not a helpful reaction, because then whoever it is can just keep doing what they're doing, and they don't know it's wrong maybe. So you're just enabling them in that sense. So I feel like we shouldn't be afraid to show if we're upset about something, but do it in a way that isn't like bringing the person down or embarrassing the person. My other point was give grace. Like, remember that we are literally one family. Like, you can't attack this person in the hopes to tear them down or bring them down because you're on the same team. I feel like if you're going into it with trying to educate, help, whatever, you should always do it with the sense that I want this person to be better. I want God to bless them and their lives and still use them to minister to people.
Yeah.
So I'm doing this to help and not to bring down, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And like, yes, this whole thing of coming at it from a point, a place of grace and love. Yes, exactly. But then I was thinking about it. I'm like, sometimes that doesn't feel fair. Like, sometimes it feels very unfair. Like, why do I have to be the one to do this? Like, and genuinely, nothing God calls us to do is fair anyway. Exactly.
It does feel like, because everybody, like Black believers, when, I don't remember his name, the brother of the guy who got shot by the police officer, when he hugged her in court, do you remember that? Like, people were up in arms, like, why would he do that? No. And to be honest, I could see both sides, because I was proud of him for doing that, because that was like such a Christ-like response. Like, he's the one in pain, and he's like, you know what, I choose to forgive you. And then on the other hand, people were like, well, now nobody's learned their lesson, or now he's just letting her go. And it's almost like I always have to be the bigger person. But again, this is what Christ has called us to.
Exactly.
And if you want to walk the walk, then you walk the walk.
You walk the walk.
Yeah.
But also, sorry, just to like go back a bit, when you were talking about how you need to let them know that this has made you uncomfortable, I was thinking about this, that justice and forgiveness and justice, they come hand in hand. So like in the case of the guy that you just mentioned, I can't remember his name, Botham, I think that was the name of the guy that died, Botham. And there was justice. Maybe some people argue that the jail sentence should have been longer, yes, but there was also forgiveness. And that was something I was thinking about, because even if you look at Christ on the cross, there was justice. And there was forgiveness, because Jesus had to die to forgive everybody's sin so that everybody can come to God. But then Jesus had to die, and the justice there was even like explicit, like justice that we can't even like imagine ourselves, because Christ was blameless. He didn't do anything to deserve to die like that. And so like I was thinking about that, like when the Bible kind of sets the precedent for you, like there's someone bleeding on this cross, but there's also forgiveness. Now you can come to God. And how do we imbibe that as just believers around the world? Like justice and
like to even go off of that, like if you, because going up to somebody and being like, oh, Christ forgave, so you should forgive too, that just seems harsh, even though it is true. And I feel like for me anyway, like when I'm like, oh, why do I have to be one all the time? Like again, if you remember Jesus, like Jesus didn't deserve to die, but he died for you. And I think like for me, I look at him and I'm like, not just that he died for you, so do it. It's like he gets it. He's like, no, like I understand what you're feeling. I did it. And it's one of those things I always try to remind myself that Jesus is walking the walk with us. Like he's not just shouting from afar, like, you have to do this.
Do it.
He's like walking it with you. Like, yeah, that happened to me too. I understand your pain. I see your pain. I feel, and his heart breaks for the things that our hearts break for too. The sins that are committed against us. He feels that. He's not like, get over it or get over yourself. He feels those things too. So that always makes me feel better, I guess, or like empowers you, because you're like, the God that you're serving isn't just calling you to do anything. He's like, he's not just calling you and then like sitting back. He's like literally right beside you. That's what he promises us. So
yeah, and that's cool. And I'm just going to jump to my second to the last question, like from that. So why is it important that we care as Black Christians, as Christians, and I guess as a world?
Okay, I'm going to answer your last two questions together because I think it's important to say. Sorry. We have to care because God cares. That's the only thing I wrote for that. I have nothing else to say about that.
Yeah.
But I think, and then one way that we can do this, like we can care as a church, is don't run away from uncomfortable conversations. I was going to say that too, because there are many people who are like, Jackie Perry, shout out to Jackie Perry, go follow her. But she posted a poem, and like who are commenting like, why would you bring politics into the church? We should leave it out and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we need to be able to have those hard conversations in the church, because I feel like if we just go to church and we're just like, Jesus died and he rose again, that's true, that's good. But like, we just talk about like Christian church things, and then we go into the real world and we have no idea how to act in front of people who don't look like us or think like us. And I'm like, what better place is there for us to be like, okay, how do we do this than in the church? So I feel like we shouldn't run away from conversations, and we should go in and like, Ashley loves Jackie. Hi, Ashley. We should go in and try and have those conversations and always listen to people. Don't like have conversations with the idea that I'm going to tell them how I feel. Always starting with, I want to hear what they have to say. I feel like that's a better place for understanding and actual good communication to come from. So.
And even if we think about facing the reality of things that are going on, like we have to face it head on. Like we don't run away. Even for instance, if we're struggling with sin, we don't run away from the sin that we're like struggling with. We face it. That's how you kill it. You have to like. So like it's the same thing I think with conversations. Like you don't run away from it. If it makes you uncomfortable, let's sit there. If I'm going to cry for 1 hour before I tell you, let me cry for 1 hour and tell you. That's how we get through this whole thing. Thank you. This has been really helpful. I feel like if we continued, you could definitely keep talking about this. But like, yes, we need to be empathetic. We need to love and understand that unity is a priority over our own like beliefs, and also that white Christianity, whitewash Christianity is not Christianity, and that should not be something that people should be hanging over Black people. Like the fact that somebody speaks out or something right is done in a community does not mean that racism does not exist. Doesn't mean that we should stop talking about it. We have to keep talking about it, because the fact that God made many different people from different ethnic identities makes him proud, and we should be proud of that too. Yes.
And get to know them. Don't just cover it up and be like, we're different because we look different.
Deeper, not surface level, like, oh, what kind of food do you eat? No, deeper, like, how do you people think
Celebrate
about it? How do you see God? How do you see color? How do you see fabric? How do you see just different things, family? So thank you, Seun, for joining us. Before you go, one question. What have you been watching on Netflix?
Okay, I have two things. First of all, I just started watching Money Heist.
Oh. It's so good. So good.
But also, Scooby-Doo. So there's a new Scooby-Doo movie coming out today. It's supposed to be in cinemas, coronavirus. So they're releasing it online. And I'm going to be watching it later today.
Where are they releasing it though?
Let's Google it. Well, we online. You have to pay for it to watch it. Yeah.
Okay.
Like everyone is free. I'm happy about that, but whatever.
Oh, she loves Scooby-Doo. She loves Scooby-Doo. Since she was a baby. But thank you for joining us, guys. Everyone that came on this live. Honestly, we need to have. I actually let them know. Oh my gosh. We need to have conversations like this, from time to time, and we need to talk about it and face it head on. So thank you, Seun, for joining us. We really appreciate, we love you. My paintings love, Shaya's paintings love you. And thanks, guys, for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Peace. Bye.